What's up, everyone? It's Cannan back with another video, and welcome back to RWBY Alternate Realities. Yes, I know it has been a long time, 4 months since the last episode of What If Yang Was a Saiyan. Well, here it is, episode 14. I want to once again apologize for the long wait. Like I said in, I think, the previous episode, our work schedule is just brutal, and I just haven't had time to sit down and really brainstorm the next turn of events. But here recently, I got my inspiration back. Plus, Volume 9 was airing. I think the last episode went up like after Chapter 2 had come out of Volume 9. And just Volume 9 took precedence, especially after, you know, Bumblebee became canon with Blake and Yang saying I love you and the kiss, and that took over our minds for a good while, and just everything else. And as you all know, after a RWBY volume ends, me and Jess, as far as on the channel goes, we kind of took a break. We usually take a break from RWBY for a little bit. Plus, I got this new PC. I wanted to get back to Let's Plays and stuff like that. But this is going up Friday, day 1 of RTX. Sadly, both me and Jess work on Friday, so we will be working during the RWBY panel, but we will be keeping our eyes on it. I've seen nothing about a live stream of the event, so I guess we won't be able to just react to the panel. We'll just have to cover it, and if anything is shown, like a trailer for the Justice League movie Part 2 or anything like that, we will, of course, react to that in the video that we do for the RWBY panel. Since we both open on Saturday, I'm guessing we will probably record it Saturday after we get home from work, because we both close on Friday and then open on Saturday, so we won't have time to do it when we get home on Friday night. But I'm gonna try my best to put these up a little bit more closer together and not wait months to do it. Once again, I'm so sorry about that. I know there's a lot of you that enjoy these. This series has gotten more of a fan base than I thought it would. But please remember, eventually I will be putting more time in between episodes, because I'm not going to create my own original story after the events of Volume 9. We'll have to wait till Volume 10 airs before we can keep on going. But I am trying to think up of a story to include the events of the Justice League movie into this story. Of course, it's not going to take place, spoiler warning if you've not seen the movie, but it's not going to take place during the events of Volume 7, obviously, because we're just about to get into the events of Volume 8, and I don't want to put the events of Part 1 after Arrowfell and then have to wait several months for Part 2. So I will not be integrating that story until Part 2 comes out, so there might be a bit of a wait between the beginning of Volume 8 and the end of Volume 8, because Team RWBY can't fall and then the Justice League movie happen. So yeah, so that is what is planned out now. So I think the Arrowfell story may have one more episode after this. And then we'll get really mainly into the events of Volume 8. Well, really, I think still technically we are a little bit still in Volume 7. So I'll have to go back and watch. I can't remember if we officially started the events of Volume 8 or not. Like, truly. Like, I know Salem hasn't shown up yet. But anyway, if you enjoy our content, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, click that like button, leave a comment. That was me talking for almost 5 minutes straight about nothing that has to do with the actual story. And my mouth is already getting dry, so I'm going to take a sip of tea here. And let's get into it. So last episode, both Blake and Yang fought Ruta and Ivy of Team Briar and were able to defeat them together. Did not destroy them, just knocked them out. So that's now 2 members of the new reprogrammed Team Briar out of commission. Rowani is in the possession of Penny, Ruby, and Weiss, who have headed back to headquarters because, as I said in that last video, Penny is Pietro's daughter, and so she knows what she needs to do to get this thing open so that maybe they can not interrogate, but at least question Rowani to see if they can learn anything else about what exactly is going on. Also, guys, if you hear a noise in the recording, I've got our fan on because it is burning hot in here. So please just excuse that. Also, Pietro, Jean, Nora, and Ren are at Watts' old lab where they discovered, you guessed it, an underground lab that was not destroyed when Team Briar destroyed the lab, where they have located Thornmane, who has been turned into an android, and they discovered that those evil Pokeballs, which is what I call them, not only have one, they don't only have one function, which is to pretty much create artificial negative feelings to attract Grim, but it also uses the time during those Grim attacks to absorb energy, which gets brought back to Thornmane. So he has a very unique power, kind of like Cell in a way, who could absorb energy, but kind of like Android 13, he also has another way, which will come in the next coming episodes. So Pietro is very concerned about this because Thornmane disappeared a good while ago, and he was a very open, I wouldn't say enemy, but he was very outspoken against Ironwood. And when he disappeared, many had the thought that Ironwood had silenced him. And really, Ironwood kind of did. Ironwood had him banished from Atlas. Now, of course, Thornmane being a military guy, he was able to take care of himself. It's not like he was in any fear of dying out in the wilds, if you want to say, of Solitas, though if his aura ever went out, then yeah, he'd probably freeze to death, but he was a very strong individual, and so that never happened. In fact, he actually became stronger living out in the tundra outside of Atlas. But of course, with the arrival of Dr. Watts, things changed, and Watts saw the potential in this guy. To him, even though he's not showed up in the story yet, to him, well, technically, I guess he probably has. I can't remember if I included him in the part of Volume 5 in this, but if he did, excuse me, you know, it's been a while. But Watts thinks that this guy could actually rival the raw power of Hazel. Because Watts always saw Hazel as having one big weakness, and that being his big heart. Because we all know Hazel does have a code of honor away, and seeing as how he developed such a soft spot for Oscar, yeah, you would say that probably out of Salem's circle, he probably had the weakest heart in that he could attach himself to stuff. But this guy, if he could be stripped of what makes him human pretty much, he would be an unstoppable force. And so, of course, against his will, Thornmane was experimented on and turned into an android. But unlike the Aesops and unlike Team Briar, he was sealed away because Watts wanted him to pretty much be a ticking time bomb. Once he had enough energy, he would blow out of his capsule and pretty much take Atlas down with the explosion itself. But thanks to Pietro and them finding him, Pietro has already pretty much put an end to that. He's not going to blow up or anything like that, but there is a problem, and that is in deactivating that, a timer has went off, and Thornmane is going to wake up. So Pietro, you know, starts messing with the keyboards, trying his best to stop it, and the ticker keeps going down. Meanwhile, Blake is contacted by Ruby and the others saying they've got back to headquarters and they have Rowani and they're going to open it. Yang says, bad idea. Don't do that. You know, if she attacks you guys the moment she wakes up, you guys won't stand a chance, even with Penny there. Let me and Blake get to you guys first. And Blake's like, well, what about these two? Which she points to Ruta and Ivy. Yang kind of groans and says, fine. She grabs pretty much an empty train car, rips the top off of it, sets them both in it, tells Blake to hop on, and flies carrying a whole train car. Picture that in your minds. So when they arrive at headquarters, they bring Ruta and Ivy in, lay them on beds because they're still out cold. And Yang's like, I don't know about this. Like, I've already defeated her, but if she wakes up and the ruckus from that in turn wakes the other two up, it's going to be really hard fighting all three of them indoors. Which Penny starts scanning Rowani, and she scans the other two, and she notices that, now I don't know all the computer stuff, but let's just say she sees that Rowani does not have the signature within her that the other two have, meaning she has not been reprogrammed. So she might not be 100% hostile at first. Yang gets at the ready and is like, fine, just do what you gotta do, but if she attacks, I'm taking care of her right then and there. Penny nods and she activates Rowani, and Rowani wakes up and says, you know, where am I? She looks around. She recognizes Yang and of course puts up her guard, but Penny's like, hold on, you know, we're not a threat to you. We just want to ask you some questions. And Rowani, of course, is not going to believe that. She's like, yeah, right. Why should I tell you anything? Because if I don't tell you what you want to know, you're probably going to destroy me and use my parts to make a toaster. Yang kind of chuckles and says, that's not a bad idea, which Blake elbows her. Penny looks at her and says, I promise, we're not going to hurt you. Look, we found something very disturbing in the ruins of the old lab, and we just want to know what we are dealing with. And Ronnie's like, ruins? What do you mean? The lab was fine from the last thing I remember. Which they explain that it was destroyed, but there was an underground lab. Now, Rowani is confused by this because she never knew about an underground lab, and she admits that. What are you talking about? You know, and they say we found another android. They explain who it is, which she already gets angry because, oh boy, does Rowani have a story to tell. So, Team Briar were once a team of regular huntresses, but they came from a long line of huntresses who protected Fort Arrowfell, which had its own long storied history, and the huntresses that trained there and also lived there protecting it. Well, one day, Ironwood and the Atlas military, along with Thornmane, arrive and pretty much kick them out. They want to turn it into a military base. And of course, they fight, but of course, 4 huntresses cannot fight an entire military. They were quickly defeated and kicked out. Thornmane later contacted them because he, of course, was already plotting his revenge on Ironwood, which, if things had went like in Cannan, the events of RWBY Arrowfell would still have happened the way it normally would have, but this is an alternate reality. Of course that didn't happen, because Team Briar never trusted him. They did do a few odd jobs for him, you know, mostly mercenary work, but they quickly learned that this guy was bad news. There was just something about him that they could never fully trust. He promised them that once Ironwood was gone, he'd give them back Fort Arrowfell and he would rule Atlas fairly and all this, but they just had a feeling that there was more to it than that. That he had, you know, that he had more alternative motives. And so they parted ways with him. Now, it turns out that Thornmane was actually captured by Watts before Team Briar, because of course, Team Briar being a huntress team, they traveled all over doing odd jobs, doing work, and all that. So when they finally came back looking to see if Ironwood had maybe taken over Arrowfell, and like which they expected, they were expecting to have to try and fight for it again, but they were shocked to see that Ironwood abandoned Arrowfell. And so, of course, they went to retake it, but during that time, that is when Watts captured them and did to them what he did. Because he knew he could make stronger androids that would benefit him and later Salem and be way stronger than the Aesops that he was going to be making for Ironwood. So a lot of backstabbing, a lot of people keeping secrets, even though they're supposed to be working together. So, and she also lets them know, she does reinfer the story that at one point, Winter was planned to be turned into an android as well, which Weiss is appalled by this. But she's also very angry that Ironwood would even think about doing that to Winter when Winter had, pretty much supported and had Ironwood's back for all those years. Meanwhile, at the lab, things aren't going good. The timer is going down, down, and down, and it finally ends, and the capsule opens. Now, of course, Sean, Ren, and Nora get in front of Pietro to protect him, as Thornmane does the whole, android waking up thing. He comes out of the capsule, he stretches and all that, and he just looks at him. He doesn't really even acknowledge them in a way. But he looks around, takes in his surroundings, realizes he's in the lab that he last remembers being in, but he can feel it. He knows something's been done to him. He's like, where's the good doctor? And they're like, well, he's dead. And he says, good. Well, there's no reason to keep this place around. Forms a blast in his hand. The place goes up. And it shocks the entire area to where the tremor is felt back at home. And everyone's like, what was that? And Penny, fearing the worst, leaves the headquarters, flies up in the air, and sees the smoke plume coming from where everyone was. And she's horrified because, for all she knows, her father has just been killed. So, she heads off on her own. Like, not even offering to help Ruby and them that way. She just goes off on her own. And of course, Ruby's like, Penny, wait. And they're like, okay, we've got to go after her because who knows what that was. And Ronnie says, wait. Can we please wake up my teammates? And they're like, why? They're reprogrammed. They'll attack us. They'll attack you. And it's right at that moment where a voice is said, and it's like, I can take care of that. They turn, and there is Bianca, the leader of Team Briar. And of course, everyone draws their weapons, gets in their fighting stance, and she's like, I'm not here to attack you. And she goes into this long monologue that the thing that Watts didn't take in consideration was that just how strong they would get, but also how smart they would get. And she talks about how while the doctor wasn't noticing, she would look over the blueprints that he used to turn them into androids, noticing little things that she could possibly take advantage of because they always planned on turning on them for what they did to them. And one trick that she found out she learned was to fight the programming. And in this case, she was able to deactivate it herself. She only went along because she knew that her other two teammates, Ivy and Rhoda, sorry guys, it's late, were under the influence of it. And if she just came out and said, "Oh, I'm not affected," they would have attacked her. So she says she knows a way to get it out of them so they'll return to their selves. And it pretty much comes to there being there being a little thing under their skin behind their neck, which kind of acts as kind of a hard reset in a way. And pretty much just like anything else, you hold it for so long, it gets rid of it, pretty much. Kind of like a very hard wipe. So she walks over to them, finds it, presses it, and holds it until they wake up. And just like that, the programming that was put into them just to be killing machines is gone, and they're finally back to how they were. Now, of course, at first when they see where they are, they're like, "Oh, we're captured. Let's fight our way out of here." But Bianca is like, "No, now is not the time for us to be fighting. We need to help them because that's what it's going to take down this threat." And kind of a way to show, hey, she's right, Blake tosses Ivy back her whip. And so a very uneasy alliance is formed. Uneasy, but still an alliance. So they all leave the headquarters. They see where it has happened. Yang picks up Blake and flies off. Two members of Team Briar pick up Ruby and Weiss and fly off, and the other two follow. They land. They are on the outskirts. They are pretty much on the little outskirts of a village. The mountain outside the village is obviously been blown apart. And around them is Jean, Ren, Nora, and Pietro. Penny is at Pietro's side. Thankfully, with the help of Jean, Ren, and Nora, they were able to take the brunt of the force, which protected Pietro. So he's not in good shape, but he is alive. The others check on Jean, Ren, and Nora. They're fine, but they're definitely out of commission. Their auras are broken. It's completely dangerous for them to fight in this kind of situation. And then they hear, "Finally, you came. Your little friends weren't much fun." They all turn, and here comes Thornmane, pretty much making the usual shonen enemy intro, walking through the dust, walking all menacingly, which all of Team Briar, react to it. Yang is just like standing there just looking at him like she doesn't know if he's really as much as people have claimed he is. He looks at Team Briar and says, "Even now, after all this time, you four still disappoint me. You couldn't get anything right, even with new upgrades, even with the shoddy programming that the doctor put into you." And they're like, "What do you, if anyone's a failure, it's you. You failed literally at everything you attempted to do." And he looks at Team Ruby and then looks at them and says, "These four being alive is more of a failure for you all than anything I ever did. Because if it wasn't for them, Atlas, no, the world could have been yours." Ruby quickly tells Penny to get Pietro to safety, because even though Jean, Ren, and Nora are not exactly safe themselves, Pietro is a lot more fragile than they are right now. Which Penny nods, though she doesn't want to leave because they could probably use her in this fight, but she does take Pietro back to headquarters. Bianca does tell the other three to quickly move Ren, Nora, and Jean a good distance away so they won't get caught up in this. And he says, well, are you just going to stand there or are you going to entertain me? Of course, all 4 members of Team Briar attack, and once again, showing the great teamwork that they did in the game, they show here, but sadly, they are very, very outclassed. Everything they throw at Thornmane pretty much doesn't graze him. He's too powerful, he's too fast. And it doesn't take long for him to knock them all back. He then turns to Team RWBY and says, please tell me you 4, even though you are completely organic, please tell me you all will put up a better fight than these 4 clowns. Before Yang can even say anything, RWBY, Weiss, and Blake attack. RWBY using her speed semblance, Weiss using her glyphs, and Blake using her shadow clones. All 3 of them, of course, have improved. They've all been training. But sadly, they just can't compete with an android of this caliber. But before he can do really anything damaging to them, Yang finally does step in, and even just in her base form, she is able to easily catch a punch that was heading right toward RWBY. She squeezes it and says, all right, big guy, if you thought they were fun, you're gonna love me. And she uppercuts him and sends him flying back. He quickly catches himself, though, and cracks his jaw a little bit and says, oh, you are going to be fun. And he attacks her right back. And the moment they collide, they send a shockwave back. The ground crumbles. RWBY and the others hate it, but they just have to admit they're just going to have to be bystanders in this fight. They gather Team Briar to get them safely away, and they prepare themselves to watch this epic battle between a Saiyan and an android. And the fight is very even. It's a lot of blocked blows, and if one lands a blow, another one lands one. But Yang's not really getting hurt by them. She's more or less getting annoyed because she already finds him annoying as it is. Like, he's already pissed her off. Because he's just fighting with this smirk on his face. Like, just like cocky smirk that nobody likes. It's from people that you just don't like. Whether it's someone at school you don't like or someone at work you don't like. They just got this smirk like they're better than everybody else. But he's like, all right, let's see how he does with energy blasts. Throws one, he swats it away like a fly, and he's like, really? Is this all you've got? I thought the one that defeated the Aesops would have been better than this. That pisses her off. She grits her teeth, her eyes turn green, and she's like, oh, you want to see what I'm really made out of? All right. Her long black hair spikes up, turns golden, and she unleashes her Super Saiyan strength out and doesn't give him time to react. She sends him through a flurry of punches and kicks back and forth as she teleports back and forth, pretty much like a ping pong ball, knocks him back down to the ground, and then powers up a blast and throws at him. It causes a huge explosion. Yang lands because she knows that's not going to be enough. And of course, she's right. He walks out of the explosion, but she at least did damage his outfit a little bit. And he's like, oh, yes, you are definitely the one that Watts wanted me to prepare for. You are the fight that I've been waiting for. But he looks at his hands. Absorbing the energy from humans all this time has not really done anything for me. I could be much stronger. Let's see what this will do. He lifts his finger up and it glows, and Team Briar starts screaming. Ruby, Weiss, and Blake look in horror as they don't know what's wrong with them. They try to tend to them, but all of a sudden, these capsule-like things come from inside their bodies, out of their skins, pretty much comes out like their skin is water. So there's not gaping holes. It just comes out like their skin was made of water, and it mends back. All 4 of these capsules go into him. He has stolen their power cells, which pretty much is the battery of an android. All 4 members of Team Briar go limp. They check on them. They're completely deactivated. They're gone. They can never be awakened. You know, Yang's like, what did you do? What did you do to them? And he just starts laughing maniacally. He's like, so, because like it's very shonen villain laugh, you know, the crazed laughter, and his energy and power start to rise as he starts to transform. And that is where we will leave off. Yes, I hate to do it, but like I said, guys, it is a little late. But I will try my best, I promise, to get the next episode up ASAP. That way we can at least finish the Arrowfell story. But yes, next episode, Super Saiyan versus Super Android. How will it go, and how will Yang defeat this newest threat? It's all up in the air right now, but tell me what you thought in the comments below. As always, guys, this is Canaan. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, click that like button, leave a comment, and remember, me and Jess love you all very, very much. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Have a great RTX, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.